Before I get into the video, just because I've experienced this with my RFK videos, I am not a politician or a political commentator. This is not a political channel. I'm a speech therapist and I make videos about things relating to speech therapy. I don't care if you love Trump, you hate Trump. I'm not talking about how I feel about him. This is a entertaining video to help educate those who want to learn about voice and things like that.
Trump. It's a lot of great people. Lots of great people on both sides. Excuse me. Fake reviews.
Election season is in full swing in America, and I feel like every time that I look at a TV, I am seeing the face of Donald Trump. Now, this is sometimes his own face, sometimes there are comedians, sometimes there are actors, but the thing that I love about Trump is that he is so easy to impersonate. I feel like literally anyone can take out their fingers and act like Donald Trump. And as a speech therapist, this is really interesting to me because I look at things very differently. I'm looking at the quality of someone's voice and the overall presentation of how they communicate. I wanted to share my input and kind of break down the qualities that make up his voice and kind of explain what people have to do to their own voice in order to sound like him. But before we do that, I just wanted to say welcome. My name is Destynie. I'm a licensed speech language pathologist, which is also known as an SLP. I typically take videos on the internet and analyze them and then give my perspective as a speech therapist as to what's going on in the video. If you're new here, I just wanted to say welcome. Please stick around. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on future videos. All right, so let's get into this.
We know St. Pete because Pete was so saintful. We know that. Weirdly sounds like he was a great saint. He was a great saint. We love him. We said, Pete, you're a saint.
So the first thing that we notice, especially when someone is impersonating him, is that they're very keen on the body language. Body language is really important with him. He's a very confident person. He presents as a confident person. So he's standing usually upright. His head is up. He's not slouching. And something that everyone uses are the hand movements. Like, he has a lot of hand movements going on. I'm afraid to throw up signs here, but he's using his hands quite a bit and they're very specific like that. And everyone imitates that. So body language is the first thing that you're going to have to get down if you're going to impersonate him. Something else that stands out right away is that he definitely has an accent. Now, if you are from New York, then you may not notice this accent because he has a New York accent. But for the others out there who don't live in New York, whether it be somewhere else in this country or in a different country, he has a noticeable New York accent. The next thing that I look at is something called pitch. It's just the frequency of your vocal cords because they vibrate. So if you have a higher pitch, it's likely that your vocal cords are vibrating at a higher frequency, so moving faster. And if you have a lower pitch, then they're probably moving slower. Think about guitar strings, right? So if you're hitting that higher pitched guitar string, is usually tighter and it moves a lot faster versus that lower pitched guitar string. It's thicker and it moves slower. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, with his pitch, he actually has a masculine sounding voice. So, he's perceived as a man, but he has a higher pitched masculine sounding voice. So when any actor or comedian is impersonating him, the first thing that you notice is that their pitch typically goes up in order to match his frequency. Something else that I pay attention to is the quality and dynamic of his voice. And he doesn't necessarily have to work very hard to speak loudly. So he has a really good projection to his voice. He has nice breath support, I would guess. And so it doesn't take him a lot of work to be very loud. I also feel like he has a very smooth speaking voice. I think a lot of his smoothness has to do with the prosody of his speech. So prosody is just kind of the rhythm of your speech. And he has a very sing-songy way of speaking. And everyone imitates this perfectly because it's so easy to do. He has kind of a rhythmic speaking pattern, and it almost doesn't sound like a real person. Like he actually sounds like a character, or like that it has a script at all times, because he's speaking in a way where it's like Sleepy Joe, da da da, and everyone can imitate this, and it's hilarious when they do.
Abu Bakar al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog.
I think the reason why he's so smooth is because of the way that he speaks like that. And it's because he almost has a breathiness. It's not extreme, but he has somewhat of a breathiness to his voice, which basically means that like when I envision his vocal cords, he is not slamming his vocal cords together in any like abusive way. And when you're speaking kind of like Trump, you're tapping your vocal cords lighter than if you were to talk very like hard and aggressive. If you talk like in a very hard, like harsh way, then your vocal cords are actually slamming together versus just like gently tapping. And so the fact that Trump kind of speaks in this rhythmic, breathy pattern, it actually causes his vocal cords to touch each other lightly, in which case he preserves the overall smoothness of his voice. So it's actually a pretty good way to speak in order to preserve your vocal cords. Something else that I look at is pronunciation. And he actually has a very quirky pronunciation, and a lot of people imitate that as well. So I want to say that he over articulates certain words, but then he under articulates some other words. And it has to do with the presentation of his mouth. So he has kind of like a lock jaw, if that makes sense. I mean, you guys have seen him multiple times. I'm sure you've seen the impersonations. They all kind of have to lock their jaw in order to copy him. But then he also has, you know, kind of like a tightness to his lips. It almost makes it so that you would think he would slur most of his words, but they actually come out quite clear. I mean, some of them slur, I'm sure, but they actually come out quite clear despite him having a pretty locked oral cavity. It's really interesting. But he can open up his mouth and like release the jaw and over articulate certain words when he feels like it. I mean, that just goes to show that he has a very unique way of speaking, and that's what makes him so much fun to impersonate. Now, I wish at this point I could just break out into my best impersonation, but I'm awful at this. So I'm just going to leave you guys with my favorite impersonation of Trump. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you like it. Leave a comment, share it with people that you love, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Talking about the wall one time, he goes, "This wall is so tall, it's impenetrable. It's impenetrable. You cannot get over this wall unless you have a really tall ladder."